Hi guys, this is Hirosaki. This story is all about what if Naruto had been raised by Kakashi his entire life and how would raising Naruto change Kakashi's life as well? Before we start, kindly like and subscribe to this channel and look over the description box for the author of this amazing storyline. Welcome aboard. Chapter 24, Pass or Fail. The alarm woke Naruto up with its loud beeping noise as he groggily slammed his palm onto it, silencing the evil device. He had been having a nice dream involving him being Hokage and demanding that all ramen was now free. He got up and yawned as he stretched himself out. It was still dark out, and even though he went to bed early he was still tired. He got a shower, dressed and was about to eat when he remembered his dad's rules. That thought made him stop for a second and realized that his dad wasn't even up yet. He snuck to his room and opened the door and looked inside and frowned as his dad was still asleep. That bastard, he's playing with us, isn't he? Naruto thought to himself, knowing now his dad was going to make them wait forever before showing up so they would be tired. Well, two can play it that way, Dad. He grinned as he got a few supplies ready and laughed as he made his way to the training grounds. It looked pretty ordinary to him, lots of trees, a wide open space, 3 logs were in the ground for what he wasn't sure, and he knew that he was close to the memorial stone as well as his father took him to see it with him now and again. He smiled seeing that his teammates were there looking just as tired and most likely as hungry as he was. Hey guys! He called out to them. Sasuke saw him and wondered why he had a backpack with him. What's with the luggage? My dad is still asleep and I know he'll keep us waiting for hours, so I decided to pay him back for not being on time like I know he's not. He smiled as he took out sealing scroll that he got for one of his birthdays. He smiled at the memory that was when his father took him camping for the weekend after his party. He had just been alone in the woods with his dad for 2 days as his dad taught him all about the forest and how to live off it. It was one of his favorite memories. He pulled it open and 3 sleeping bedrolls came out. He placed them aside and then pulled out a box and opened it to reveal some food and juice boxes. Naruto, you can't do that, it's cheating. Sakura shouted at him. Yeah, but that looks good and we're so hungry and tired, maybe just a little snack and a rest. Inner Sakura asked her counterpart. Sakura was about to protest, but then her stomach chose that moment to growl and she blushed embarrassed. Sasuke's stomach soon echoed hers, but he just turned his head and grunted, trying to play it off. Come on guys, I bet my dad did this so that we'll just be tired and hungry, and he said it only as a warning, didn't he? I mean, if we chose to eat and not throw up, then so what? He never did say you be here on time and don't sleep and don't eat or you'll fail. Naruto grinned under his mask. If there was one thing he learned from his father, it was how to look underneath the underneath and also how to work your way around things. It was hell with Iruka back in school because he had to make sure that there was no leeway in class assignments, although Naruto usually found a loophole or something, which of course Kiba and Shikamaru joined in because Kiba wanted less work and Shikamaru was naturally just lazy. Sakura and Sasuke looked at each other for a moment before the Uchiha prodigy just shrugged and took a snack and juice box and sat on one of the bedrolls. He didn't care if it was against the rules or not, but he was hungry and tired and he would take advantage of that if he could. Sakura looked a little unsure what to do and saw Naruto take some and do the same as Sasuke. She just sighed and hung her head in defeat and joined them. So how long until your father shows up? Sasuke asked him. On average he's 2 hours late for everything, so I'd say 2 hours after our timing, so I'm going to get some sleep. Naruto yawned, but then they watched as he put an apple to his mask and both teens looked in the hopes of seeing him pull down his mask. But to their amazement the apple just went through it and there was a bite out of the apple. The hell was that? Sasuke shouted at him. Huh? Naruto asked. Don't huh us, Naruto, Sakura said, a little angry that she had once again failed to see what was behind his mask. For years everyone tried, but only Hinata knew and she wasn't telling. She was wondering how he did it when she realized what he had done. You got a genjutsu on your mask. I thought that was your worst subject, Dobe. Sasuke said to him, knowing full well that in genjutsu he had beaten Naruto every time while he had barely passed the subject. Naruto scratched the back of his head. Heh, yeah it is, but I can do a few things, I just can't really detect them all that great and do them. It's just so complex and all that stuff, but the very simple ones I can do, and besides this is a Heitake family jutsu. Heitake jutsu? Sakura asked him, eager to know it. Yep, Naruto smiled proudly, Heitake mask illusion jutsu. We use it all the time to cover our faces and so we can eat with our masks down so people will see us with a mask. That is the dumbest thing I have ever heard of. Sasuke's sweat dropped at that. To think a family would go to all that trouble just to keep their faces hidden was a bit eccentric to him. Sakura did the same but was wondering if she could cancel out the jutsu, but knowing Naruto he would have placed a lot of chakras into it like he usually did. She was about to try when she noticed that he had finished the apple and it looked like he mimed pulling on a mask and there was a slight ripple over the mask. Damn it, I was so close. Sakura screamed in her head knowing that he was wearing the real one this time. We'll see what's behind that mask one day and see what's he hiding, Shan Naro. Inner Sakura yelled out, making punching movements. Team 8 Training Grounds. It was early in the morning and Hinata had arrived at the training grounds for her team. It was a forested area but there was a lake that was fed by a waterfall that went into a river, a few large open spaces, and there was an area of tall grass as well as large rocks and boulders all over the place. It had a lot of places to hide it seemed, and she wondered what their test would be. She had met up with her team yesterday as they met and got introduced to their Jonin sensei Kurane Ui. She was one of the most beautiful women that she had seen and she was so strong and confident, everything that she wanted to be. Maybe if I become like her Naruto-kun would notice me more, she thought to herself, although she didn't think she could become as beautiful as her sensei. She felt very plain and didn't really stand out. She looked just like most other Hyuga, only she had short hair. She saw Kiba and Shino were there waiting for their sensei to show up. Shino-kun, Kiba-kun, is Kurane-sensei here yet? She asked them. No, so far it's just us, Shino said behind his high collar. Yeah, I wonder what this test is anyway. Kiba asked everyone there, with Akamaru sitting on his head as usual giving a questioning bark as well. Well, you don't have to wonder any longer, came a female's voice from out of nowhere, and they looked around to see nothing, but suddenly Kurane seemed to melt into existence. The Genjusta mistress of Konoha appeared before them with a small smile on her face, seeing their reactions. They have been trained in only basic Genjusta, so something a bit more advanced would be a surprise to them all. Now then, here's your test. You have to find me and all of you better do it soon because you have until noon to finish it. If you don't find me you all fail and you'll spend one more year at the academy. She told them seriously. Since her team was a tracking team, this would be the perfect way to test them to see where their skills were at. Our test is a game of hide and seek. Kiba frowned. If you want to put it that way then yes, but just remember this is no ordinary game and your futures ride on it. Kurane smirked as she made a few hand seals and suddenly started to vanish. No problem. Akamaru, go get her scent. He commanded his puppy. He yelped as he jumped off his head and started to sniff the area she was in, but something was wrong as he barked back at him. What do you mean there's no scent? She was standing right there, how can you not smell where she was standing? She wasn't there to begin with, Shino said calmly, looking around. I tried to place one of my bugs on her but it didn't see anyone there. We were under a genjutsu. Kiba hadn't even noticed that they had been under one. He suddenly felt that this was going to be a lot harder than he originally thought. Shino looked around the place. There were many places for her to hide, and that was just for a regular ninja. With someone who was an expert with genjutsu it was even more difficult. But there was a way to get around this, although it would take planning, but their skills were very well suited for the task. I think we should use our strengths to try and find her. I can use my insects to search for chakra, that way if there is an illusion, they'll tell me not to fall for it. Kiba, you have your nose as well as Akamaru's, so that will also help track her down. Hinata, with your eyes you should be able to find her very quickly and help guide us. With the three of us working together we should be able to find her. Shino said to them and saw that they were all speechless. Dude, that's the most I ever heard you speak in all the years I've known you, Kiba said to the other boy, who just shrugged his shoulders. Team 7. Kakashi was humming to himself as he made his way to his new victim's team. He corrected himself. Although he hoped that they would pass, he would fail them if they failed his test. He was in a good mood, wondering how cold, hungry, and tired they would be when he got there. He made a few hand seals and he disappeared. He appeared in a poof of smoke in front of his team. Yo, sorry I'm late, but... He trailed off, seeing that they were all asleep. He sweat dropped at this since he never had this happen to him before. He saw Naruto's backpack and a sealing scroll and a box with garbage in it of leftover food. That little son, you're going to get it now, Kakashi said in a sour mood that his fun was ruined thanks to Naruto. He looked around and managed to find cups in Naruto's bag. He walked back to the bridge by the river that was near their training grounds and came back with 3 cups of water, 1 in his left and 2 very carefully balanced in his right. He lined them up and dropped the water onto the face of his genins. Ah, what the hell? Naruto sputtered, feeling the cold water hit his face as his teammates also shot up. He looked up to see the glare his father was giving him and he chuckled a bit nervously. Hey dad. First I thought I told you to call me Kakashi-sensei, and first what is going on here? I thought I told you not to eat and sleep. He demanded. First you said to get here on time, nothing about sleeping while we waited for you, and second the eating was more advice that to take, besides you said not to eat anything in the morning so we ate later. Naruto smirked under his mask, knowing that he got one over his father. Kakashi sighed as he figured something like this would have happened, as his son was a genius at abstract thoughts for some reason. Well, it was no use crying over spilt milk, so he might as well go on to things. He pulled out his 2 bells and told them how the test was to get the bells from him. Of course, when he told them about how only 2 would pass, that got several reactions. Sasuke looked more determined than ever. Sakura looked unsure, but Naruto glared at him. That's a mean thing to do, Dad. I mean, we all worked hard to get this far and only 2 of us will pass. That's a crappy thing to do to someone. He said to him. Tough, that's the way things go sometimes, Naruto. Kakashi walked over and put an alarm clock down and set it. Now you'll have to come at me with the intent to kill, but don't worry, I can handle it. I need to properly see where all your skills are at. Also, there is a real test to this as well, but I'll leave that up to you. Just remember that a ninja must learn to look underneath the underneath. Not everything is crystal clear, and as ninjas we work with deception and illusion all the time. You'll have to learn to see past the surface in order to survive in this life. You all now have until noon to get the bells, so the test starts now. He grinned as the 3 genins jumped away and he waited to see who would go after him first. He wasn't surprised when he felt Naruto's chakra signature not too far away, knowing that he was trying to get behind him and attack from his blind side, which was the side where he couldn't see with this eye covered. But he didn't need the eye uncovered to know that an attack was coming. He ducked the kick and jumped the sweep kick that followed. You know, you should have known that this wouldn't work, Naruto. He smirked at his father. True, but I got a few surprises for you, Dad. Just then the ground exploded as several clones came out of the ground and attacked at once. Kakashi had to admit that was a neat little opening with a distraction followed with a full-on assault, but he was handling the clones easily enough even when Naruto started to make more clones. In the forest, both Sasuke and Sakura from their places watched as the Haytakes were battling it out. Sakura watched in awe as Naruto used solid clones. She didn't know you could even make solid clones like that and was amazed at how well Naruto was using them. Sasuke admitted to himself that it was a good opening, but Naruto was doing poorly. Kakashi had even taken out a book to read while Naruto fought. This only served to anger Naruto more, as it was something that really pissed him off that his dad did. Kakashi knew all of Naruto's moves since he either taught him all his moves or spared with him enough times to know what to look out for. Although someone was wrong when all the clones held him down instead of trying to fight, as one of the clones ran at him. Alright, you said come at you with the intent to kill, so you better be ready for this one. Kakashi felt someone was really wrong when he felt the chakra build up in the clone suddenly, and there was no way sign of it ending. He wasn't sure what it meant at first, but he suddenly remembered something from a few years ago when he was still in ABNU about a certain Uchiha. His eye widened at what he thought Naruto couldn't possibly know. The others in the woods watched as the one Naruto clone, as soon as it touched Kakashi, exploded. There was a large poof of smoke from the other clones, but as it cleared there was nothing but scorched earth and pieces of a log that he had been used as a replacement. Damn, maybe that was a bit overkill. Naruto wondered to himself out loud. Son, we are going to have some strong words when we get home tonight, Kakashi's voice said behind him, and Naruto was looking up into the glare of his father. The next thing he knew, he was tied up and, on the ground. This was another thing he hated happened to him because of his dad. He wasn't sure if his dad got the idea from Anko or not, but it would take him at least 8 minutes to get free. While he was struggling to get out, that was when Sasuke tried his luck, as he figured that Kakashi was finally too distracted to notice him. He tried for a flying kick, but Kakashi was too fast and quickly blocked it, so Sasuke twisted in midair and tried with a punch, but yet again Kakashi's other hand went out and grabbed it, but with both hands filled. Sasuke smirked, making a grab for a bell. Kakashi was surprised by the young Uchiha's advanced skills. That was the closest anyone had gotten to the bells in years. He threw the boy away and jumped back, but Sasuke was already making hand seals while in midair. Grand Fireball Jutsu! Sasuke yelled out as a giant flame went after Kakashi. For a moment Sasuke thought he had actually nailed him, but he heard a sound beneath him and jumped away as Kakashi came out of the ground. He landed a few feet away from Kakashi as he glared at him. That was the same move that Naruto had used on him a year ago, and he wasn't going to fall for the same move twice. What he didn't know was that Kakashi remembered how Naruto had bragged about that, and just as Sasuke landed, a shadow clone that he had made under the ground pulled Sasuke under the ground. Sasuke was livid. Not only had been so close, but he had fallen for this same damn thing twice. Kakashi went off in search of Sakura, and soon the forest was filled with the scream of a young girl. Kakashi came from the forest feeling like he had been a bit overboard. He had given the girl an image of both Naruto and Sasuke dying, and the girl had taken it pretty hard. Maybe that was a bit much for her, but she needed to see what type of thing that could happen. This wasn't an easy life after all. Team 8 Training Grounds. Kurane had to admit this team had very good skills. For the past few hours she had been keeping ahead of the kids, but it wasn't easy. She knows bugs couldn't be fooled by a Genjustice, so she had to keep them away from her. Kiba and Akamaru had powerful ability to smell, but she had put on something earlier before the test that masked her scent just in case. Hinata was a lot harder to trick with those eyes of hers. She had to put the girl into several Genjustice just to make her think she was seeing chakra in another directions. Shino was proving to be a good tactician of the ground. He was totally logical and methodical. When it was obvious that searching differently wasn't working, he had them all change things around. Now they were searching each area in a grid pattern. Shino was leaving his bugs behind to mark the areas so she couldn't return. They were slowly boxing her in, and she couldn't be prouder. At the moment she was standing on the water of the small lake looking for a place to go. She knew the training area well, but there were only limited places to go. Hinata was looking all over the place as best she could, but it wasn't easy to punch through a Genjusta that Kurane was able to put up. These were more powerful than anything she had ever came in contact with, and she hadn't been trained that much in using her eyes to see through them. She thought about Naruto and hoped that his team was doing well when something seemed odd. She noticed something was wrong with the lake. There were ripples on the water, but nothing was on the surface. She concentrated on the area and she could see a slight ripple in the space above the water. Shino-kun, Kiba-kun, she's on the water, Hinata said quickly. Shino was quick to act as he raised his sleeves and a swarm of his chakra-eating bugs flew out and made a circle over the lake. He slowly commanded them to close in, and soon Kurane's image slowly came visible. She smiled at the three students at them as she raised her hands in mock surrender. All right, you found me. I'm glad that you did. You all showed true teamwork and managed to get through my test. You all should feel proud. Kiba yelled out that they had finally done it. Shino was passive as ever, but Hinata was beaming. She felt like she had finally accomplished something very big in her life. She couldn't wait to see Naruto and her other friends and tell them that she had passed. Team 7 Grounds. Naruto saw the bell on the ground near the tree and couldn't believe his luck. He gleefully ran over to it but suddenly stopped. He looked at the bell that was next to the tree and gave a small laugh as he pulled out a kunai and threw it near the bell. The rope trap was triggered and Naruto felt proud of himself for seeing the trap. Come on Dad, you got to do better than that to beat Ah. Naruto had taken a few steps when the ground gave way and he fell into a pit. Ow. Damn it. Kakashi appeared and looked down the hole dangling the bell. Naruto, I keep telling you to look underneath the underneath. Maybe now you'll remember that lesson. I'll get you for this when I get out of here. Kakashi chuckled as he put the bell back and went off in search of the other two. So far it was turning out to be pretty fun. After Naruto got himself out of the pit, he was dirty and very pissed off. He was going to go after his dad when he came across Sasuke. He couldn't help but laugh and point. Of course, that only led to Sasuke yelling at him, which of course led to Naruto yelling back at him for 5 minutes straight, and they would have been at it until Sakura, who had wakened up lost and confused as to why Naruto and Sasuke weren't dead and heard the yelling. She couldn't believe that she was seeing them and ran over to make a flying glomp at Naruto. Since he was the only one, she could, as Sasuke only had his head out of the ground. Naruto blushed at the close contact with Sakura, nearly in tears seeing them, and Naruto had a happy grin on his face, that is, until Sasuke interrupted and broke the mood. And thanks to Sakura telling him to dig him out, he was now forced to dig the emo bastard, in Naruto's words, out of the ground again. After that the three of them made for the woods to regroup. The three genins were together when Naruto looked at them both. Okay, we're running out of time, so I have a plan, but it might not work. What sort of plan? Sakura asked him. Well, I know how we can get the bells from him, but it will take time. He formed the seal and made a shadow clone. Okay, you know what to do, right? The clone saluted and ran off, and Naruto hoped that nothing happened to it. Where did you send the clone? Sasuke asked him. Well, it's a backup in case the plan doesn't work. I just hope he can get it in time, Naruto simply said vaguely. Anyways, something seems off to me about this test. I mean, aren't we supposed to be a four-man cell like Iruka-sensei said? So why is my dad trying to take one of us out? It makes no sense, especially given that one of the things he's pounded into my head from day one was teamwork. Sakura thought about it. She had never heard of a ninja team that didn't have three genin in them. In fact, it was unheard of. She suddenly thought of something at that moment. The test isn't the bells, is it? It's to get them together. That's what he meant earlier about the real test, wasn't it? Naruto brightened up at that. Ha, I knew you would get it. You really are the smartest in the class. Sakura blushed at the compliment, but then frowned at how they would be able to beat him, since so far even if they did team up it wouldn't be easy. But she had a thought as she looked at Naruto. Hey Naruto, he's your father. Don't you know how he fights and what weaknesses he's got at least? Naruto scratched the back of his head nervously. Well, the only weakness that I know of is what the shadow clone is going for. I mean, other than that, if I knew of any weakness that my dad had, I would have used those years ago anyway. He can't be that good, Sasuke commented. Hey, my dad knows over 1,000 jutsus. There is a reason why he's called the copy ninja of Konoha, you know, and Kakashi of the Sharingan. What did you just say? Sasuke asked him, surprised. Naruto blinked a few times as Sasuke got in his face. What do you mean by Sharingan? You know that weird eye thing that your clan has? My dad has one. What do you think he's covering? Where did he get that? Sasuke demanded, wanting to know how his family's most sacred treasure was in the hands of someone else, and why did Kakashi only had one? There were a lot of questions he had, and that Naruto should answer to him, like why Naruto had not only shadow clones but also a move that he remembered that his older brother invented. When he saw Naruto use that move, he couldn't have believed it at first. Where he had gotten that move from he didn't know, but Sasuke didn't like the fact that Naruto knew a move of his brother's. We don't have time for this, Naruto told him, and Sasuke let it go, but he would save this for later. One way or another Naruto would answer all his questions. Soon the three kids started to shoot around ideas on what to do. Kakashi sighed, reading his book, wondering what was going on and why the kids were taking so long. It was a bit odd, and he knew the boys at least wouldn't give up. He looked up and moved aside as a kunai impacted into the tree next to his head. He heard the snap hiss sound and jumped at the explosive note detonated. The three genins came at him and he had to put his book away for them. He fought them, but something was off. They weren't fighting the same way. In fact, they were fighting like Naruto. He jumped up and fired off several kunai, hitting the shadow clones that had been transformed into the team. He landed and wondered what was next. He soon found himself surrounded by an army of his genins, and he had to admit it was a good tactic. He wouldn't be able to know which one was which, but he fought on displacing clones. What he didn't know was that his team was already moving him towards their trap. Just then the real Sakura from her position in the bushes threw several of her kunai that had explosive tags on them. Kakashi was forced back into an area where Sasuke from his place in a tree fried off several shuriken with ninja wires on them. He enveloped Kakashi, tying him up as the clones came at him with a vengeance. The clones soon attacked and they lost sight of Kakashi as the clones covered him. Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura jumped out from their place. Alright, that had to have gotten him. Naruto shouted with a fist in the air. He dispelled the clones and he was expecting his beat-up father in the wires. What he got was an empty area. What happened? Easy enough to answer, Kakashi's voice called out from behind them as they saw him on a branch reading his book. That was never the real me. The kids couldn't help but feel down. That was their best plan, and Kakashi had used his own shadow clone the entire time. Although what they didn't know was that Kakashi had kept a shadow clone in reserve after the last break and just switched places with it. He had a feeling they had been up to something, so he wanted an ace up his sleeve. Besides, it was always a good thing to make others think you were smarter and more skilled than they thought, since that placed doubt in their minds, and doubt could kill you just like any other weapon. That was until a voice called out that sounded just like Naruto's, only far off and getting closer. I got it. Everyone looked to see another Naruto running over. He handed the real one something and the clone disappeared. Now the real Naruto looked at Kakashi and he had seen that look in his eyes before, and now he knew that Naruto had something very unpleasant in mind and he was already trying to think what he was up to. "Alright Dad, here's the thing, you give us those bells or else," Naruto told him. "Or else what? There isn't anything you three could do to me. I would have thought by now you would have gotten that, son," Kakashi said from his place in the tree, trying to see what Naruto was hiding behind his back. "Oh really? Sasuke, you think you can burn this with some fire?" Naruto pulled out a green book and Kakashi's eye went wide in surprise and fright. It was his first edition Ika Ika novels, the one he got signed by Jiraiya himself. "Where did you get that?" "I locked up all those books dash. In the box that wood trunk in your room," Naruto finished Kakashi's statement. Kakashi glared at the boy. He knew that teaching him lock-picking skills had been a mistake. Now he had to get new locks for that box or just a new one in general. He glared at him as he held the book up and Sasuke was starting up his hand seals. Kakashi knew he was running out of time, and out of all his books Naruto just had to get his most prized one. Sasuke had just finished with the last hand seal before he spoke up. "You wouldn't dare?" Kakashi said, horrified at the thought of losing that book forever. It was irreplaceable since the first prints were limited and he had stood in line for hours to get that book side. Plus, it was only because that he knew him personally that he managed to get that signature as well as a peek at the new novel at the time as well that day. "Try us," Naruto smirked at him holding up the book. "Fine here," Kakashi sighed and tossed him the bells. When he had them, he tossed the book back at him, which Kakashi held on tightly. He looked at the three of them as it was time for the final challenge. "Alright, you got the bells, so which one gets to stay and who goes back, Naruto?" "We figured that part out, Dad," Naruto smirked as he handed Sakura and Sasuke a bell each. "This was team exercise, wasn't it?" Kakashi smiled and nodded. "Well, I'm glad all those lessons seemed to sink in. You all came together there at the end and worked as a real team, and that's important. Your teammates are what will ensure success on a mission. You are a team for a reason. You all have your strengths and weaknesses, and because of that together you are all stronger together than ever as a single person. So congratulations, you three are the first to pass the test, although somewhat unorthodox." He glared at Naruto. "And you son is in a lot of trouble. No ramen for a week for stealing my book." "What? Come on, that's totally unfair." Naruto yelled out at going a full week without his beloved ramen. Kakashi crossed his arms. "Tough, you know you have to ask me to read the books. You let Naruto read those filthy things." Sakura screamed at her sensei, wondering how a parent could do that. Kakashi shrugged. "Well, even though he's too young for adult acts, and you better not, I'm still too young for grandkids." Naruto, shooting his son a death glare that if he even tried to go that far with a girl it would be the last time in his life. Every boy should know how to kiss a girl and how to be romantic. You'd be surprised what kind of things the books have. That was true. The books held a lot of things, including certain romance parts, and at least when Naruto came of age, he would know what to do with a girl, at least in theory. Sakura was already blushing at remembering some of the parts of that day when Naruto was reading the book out loud to Sasuke. The boy himself was also trying to hide a bit of a blush. Kakashi gave a small perverted giggle at this. It would be so fun to mess with them like this. "Anyways, let's eat. I bet we're all hungry by now." Three sets of growling stomachs agreed with him. It had been one long morning for them all. Chapter 25, Honorable Grandson. It had been a day since he was made a ninja, officially after passing his dad's test, and Naruto was still excited. He had met up with the others and he was glad to see all his friends had passed the tests too. He was currently at the Hokage Tower getting his ninja picture done for the records. Well, actually it was on his third photo. First he showed up with a kabuki mask, then in face paint including over his mask, and both times he was asked to retake it. He swore some people just didn't have a sense of humor, so after cleaning up he took another picture. Although the photographer thought he was pulling another one with keeping his usual mask with the orange whisker marks on it on. Thankfully, after a lot of yelling and some threatening, Naruto managed to get his picture done and was now in the Hokage's office giving him the photo. "Well, I hope this works, old man, because there is no way I'm doing another." "Naruto, show some respect, will you?" Iruka yelled at him. Since school was out, he was reassigned to the Hokage's office until the new semester started up, and he just wished that for once Naruto would learn some respect. He wasn't sure if he got that from his father or he was like that naturally. "Oh, come on, you know how we are, Iruka-sensei. Hell, I don't even call my dad Kakashi-sensei, Naruto told him, making the older man sigh. Besides, it's hard to respect someone who falls after one move. Naruto grinned at the Hokage's blush forming on his face, as they both knew what he was talking about. The third gave a small cough to cover it up as he regained his composure. It hadn't been his proudest moment in his life, and he was glad no one else had seen it happen. Although he really wished Naruto would stop using that jutsu of his, he knew that many of the female population didn't enjoy that, although he knew some of the males didn't mind. He was just glad that his student Jiraiya wasn't here to see that, since he would most likely use Naruto's female image in one of his books. What they didn't know was that there was another person just outside of the door. He had been listening to someone who had said they had defeated the Hokage, but he put that aside. It just meant that the Hokage could be defeated. He readied his weapon and ran out yelling. Everyone in the room turned to see a small boy in a skull cap, with a large scarf running at them. "Now I got you!" He yelled out, only to trip and face-plant on the floor as his foot caught his scarf. He whined a bit in pain as he rubbed his face. He blinked back a few tears and saw everyone was looking at him. There was the Hokage, some guy with a scar on his face, and a boy that was older than him with a black mask and in some dark and orange clothing. The third sighed, "Konohamaru, I wish you would stop these little surprise attacks of yours." "Shut up, I will beat you," he said, and looked at Naruto and pointed his finger. "You're the one that tripped me, wasn't it?" Naruto's eye twitched. If there was one thing he hated, it was being blamed for something that wasn't his fault. "Hey, it's your own stupid fault for tripping on your own damn scarf." He gripped the kid by the large scarf, trying not to smack him, but his dad always tried to teach him patience, although it was never easy for him. Just then someone else came in, a special jonin that he met a few times from his dad's poker nights. Ebisu had been looking for Konohamaru for the past 15 minutes and had guessed he was trying another attack on his grandfather. "Hey, I know you," Naruto pointed at the man. "Don't you still owe me 50 from the last poker game my dad had?" Ebisu looked at Naruto, and he knew Naruto Hatake. Every jonin knew of the lucky card devil. He pushed up his small black shades with a finger. He cursed his luck at running into the little ninja. He had heard the rumors, of course, about how no one won a game at the Hatake home, but he didn't believe it. He still couldn't believe that the boy had beaten him and the others at nearly every hand. "Oh Naruto, I meant to pay that," he said nervously, trying to save face as the Hokage and the grandson were looking at him now. "I'll give your father the money the next time I see him, and as for your honorable grandson, I wish you wouldn't run off like that. How do you expect me to train you to be a great ninja if you keep running off like that?" "Wait, you're training the brat?" Naruto asked him, not sure if the kid was in good hands or not. He knew that his dad didn't think much of this special jonin personally, but did respect his training ability. "Naruto, watch your mouth. This is the grandson of our Hokage and should be treated as such. Do you treat your father with the same disrespect?" Ebisu asked him, crossing his arms. Only to annoy him or to motivate him, Naruto shrugged and the adult nearly face-faulted. Meanwhile, Konohamaru was listening in on the whole thing. So far the only thing he learned about this strange blonde was that he beat his grandfather somehow and beat Ebisu out of money. He wondered how the older boy could do something like that. "Hey you! If you can beat them, then I want to prove I'm better than you. If I beat you, then that means I can beat them." Naruto sighed. "I don't get the time to play, kid. I'm hungry and there's a bowl of ramen calling my name." He shrugged it off in a Kakashi-like manner. Sure, getting angry and yelling came naturally to him, but over the years he learned that you could get under someone's skin just as much acting as Guy called it, too cool and hip attitude. He left Konohamaru there staring at the boy as he just walked by, ignoring him. That was something that no one had done to him before. He was the honorable grandson, and even though he hated the title, no one had blown him off like that before. So, he made a plan to follow this genin and see what kind of skills he had and what kind of weaknesses too. And so, Naruto was soon bombarded by a certain boy's attempts at stalking him/fighting him. At first it was kind of funny for Naruto. The boy was pretty bad at hiding, and his surprise attacks were pretty pathetic. Usually he messed up and it backfired on him. After a few hours of this, Naruto was finally at his breaking point. When he saw a square rock with eye holes following him, he snapped. "That's it. Look kid, I don't know what the hell your problem is, but stop stalking me. And rocks aren't square and have big freaking eye holes." Naruto yelled at the rock that had been following him. That was when Konohamaru in a puff of smoke jumped out at him. "Never, I'll beat you and then I can finally beat my grandfather." He came at Naruto with a practice kunao. Those were blunted so they didn't cut a person but still stung when you hit them. Naruto just sighed and grabbed the boy's wrist and effortlessly threw him into the ground. Naruto stood over the boy who groaned and looked up at the masked boy. "Look kid, why do you want to beat the old man anyway?" Konohamaru got into a kneeling position feeling a few aches from his back hitting the ground. He didn't look up at the boy feeling like a failure at not being able to once land any kind of blow. "You wouldn't understand. Try me." The boy paused for a moment and decided he had nothing to lose, he might as well get this off his chest. "Everyone calls me honorable grandson, and never by my own name. No one sees me as me but just as the grandson of the Hokage. I want people to see me for me. I want to be more than just the stupid grandson." Naruto stared at the boy for a moment before he softened his deposition. "Believe it or not, I know what that's like." "How could you?" Konohamaru asked him, looking up wondering if the boy was just making fun of him. "My father is Kakashi Hatake, one of the most famous jonins we have, so how do you think I can compete with that? So I'm not called Kakashi's kid." What Naruto didn't mention was his biological father was a Hokage to the greatest of them all. So, he had not one but two men he was in the shadow of, but that didn't dishearten his resolve to surpass them both. "And I also know what it's like to be ignored and not to be seen as the person you are," he said a bit more quietly, knowing full well how some people saw him only as the fox and not as its jailer. He looked down at the young boy and he couldn't help that this kid knew some of what he had felt in his life. He was just a boy that was trying to establish his existence was more than just a name someone gave him. Konohamaru didn't see anything that said that the older boy was joking around with him. In fact, he seemed really serious about this. He slowly got up and for the first time he wondered if he had found someone that could understand what it was like to live in the Sarutobi family. Having a grandfather that was Hokage was tough, plus he rarely got to see his uncle Asuma too. He knew that his uncle and his father didn't get along that well for some reason, which sucked because Asuma was one of the few people that treated him other than the honorable grandson, which he hated. But now he might have just found someone else, and he looked at Naruto. "Can you help me then? Can you help me get stronger so that people will see me for me?" Naruto scratched the back of his head, not sure what to say. He could just blow the kid off, but he reminded him too much of himself to be honest. "Well, I do have some free time, but what do you want me to teach you?" "Teach me that move you used to beat up Grandpa," he shouted out. Naruto thought about that. It wasn't something he knew you should teach a kid, but on the other hand it would be hilarious to see the old man downed again by that move, and it would help the kid stand out from his family more too. Naruto smirked under his mask at that and then nodded. "Alright then, let's get started, shall we?" Naruto smiled. "Hot springs. Are you sure we should be doing this, boss?" the young boy asked Naruto. "Well, you want to learn how to make a cool henge, right? Well, you got to learn what to use for it," Naruto explained as they came to the hot springs. "I mean, I used the reading material my dad reads as a start, but I needed something a bit more to get the right details on the sexy jutsu, and where better than the hot springs?" So far, the training hadn't been going as good as Naruto had hoped the boy could henge, but they were terrible. Then again, he was just as bad when he first started too, until he got some help with it. So after getting the basics down, it was time to work on the image, and he needed to get the kid an idea of what to look like, so they arrived at the Konoha Hot Springs. It was one of the largest ones in the Land of Fire and had a lot of business. There was nothing better for a ninja after hard training or a day's work to come here and relax. His dad had taken him here after some intense training many times, and so he knew the way around the place. They walked quietly to it, and at first, he thought of using a henge to get in through the front into the women's section, but the first and last time he tried that he ended up being beaten, and his father called in to give him a punishment for it. So, this time he snuck around to the trees in the back where it was safer and easier to spot them. Okay, he knew it was perverted, but after all he needed references for the jutsu after all, but what they didn't expect was to find a man in red clothing, with sandals on and with very long white and spiky hair. The man seemed to be looking through a hole in the wall and making notes, it looked like. "Hey old man, what are you doing?" Naruto asked him, and the man nearly jumped. He looked at first thinking he was caught again, but sighed and then looked annoyed at the two boys. "Kids, I'm busy getting some research material, go and play somewhere else, will you?" he told them, going right back to his research. He had come to Konoha to report in like he did now and then to the Hokage, and decided a little detour was in order before leaving again. Naruto crossed his arms at the man. "Hey, so are we? So move your old ass, Gramps. I'm trying to teach him a move of mine and he needs to know what to do. At this the old man looked at the boy with interest and grinned. So we got a couple of young perverts in training, then it's my duty to train you boys in the way of the pervert. We don't want to be trained as perverts, Naruto told him simply, we just need a little look so he can get an idea and then we'll be on our way. Our kids today have no standards. He yelled out with tears falling down his face, where have the younger generation gone? To think such young boys will never know the full joys of being a pervert, it's a crime against nature. Man, this guy really is a big pervert, Konohamaru said to Naruto trying to whisper, but the old man caught it. I'm not a pervert. I'm a super pervert. He bellowed out, but that was not the brightest move he made as the entire female group in the hot springs heard it. Is someone out there? A woman's voice called out. If there is, they are dead. Another rang out. Hey you, the Hyuga woman, is there anyone there? At that the boys froze, knowing full well what that meant, as the white-haired man paled. He had missed seeing a Hyuga, but then again he wasn't exactly looking at the eyes of the women. There's some old man there and 2 kids. A woman who had to be the Hyuga clan member yelled out. Crap. Run away. Naruto yelled out as they made a dash for it. He saw that Konohamaru was having trouble keeping up, and he could hear the angry yells and curses of women getting out of the hot springs and the feel of a weapon just passing his head. Apparently, there had been some female ninjas that day besides the Hyuga woman too. He knew he couldn't leave Konohamaru behind, remembering what the women did to him. He didn't want the kid to go through that. Thankfully he was suddenly pulled up as someone grabbed him by the back of his black jacket as he felt himself going up and then crashing down. He felt something leathery and had bumps on it before feeling like he was going up in the air again and then crashing down. Once he gathered himself together, he looked to see that he was on what looked like a giant toad. The white-haired man was sitting on it and he saw Konohamaru on the other side. Naruto looked up at the old man, wondered just who he was and where he got the toad. He figured it was a summons, but he never seen on this big. It was bigger than even Bull, the largest dog that his dad could call up. It's times like this that making a quick getaway comes in handy. He laughed as the boys started to enjoy the toad ride. By the time they lost the angry mob of women, they slipped off the toad. At this point the man looked at the boy more closely. He was really looking at the blonde hair and blue eyes, and the mask was also something else that caught his attention. He had been too interested in his research to notice it before, but he knew the kid all right. Hey kid with the mask, what's your name? Naruto. Hey take, and who are you anyway? Naruto asked him. The man smiled and began a strange dance on the giant toad. I, my boy, am the great toad sage, a ninja of unparalleled power and skill whose good looks make women swoon and enemies tremble in terror. I am a master of seals and the author of one of the greatest series of novels of all time. I am the Toad Son in Jiraiya. Naruto and Konohamaru stared at the old man with a deadpan expression until Naruto spoke up. So you're the one that writes those books my dad loves so much? Ah, so your father is a fan then? Well then I guess you can't be all bad. Jiraiya grinned. Naruto, can we go now? Konohamaru asked him, getting a little creeped out by him. Naruto nodded his head as they turned to leave. Well anyways, see you around, Ero-sunin. Naruto said back to him as Jiraiya scowled and yelled at the boy who just laughed, running away with Konohamaru. Jiraiya watched the boy leave and grinned. He knew who Naruto was. After all, not many people had that kind of blue eyes and blonde hair. It had been a very long time since he last saw the boy. He stopped by now and then to check in on how Kakashi was raising the boy. It was hard to watch Naruto, as looking at him made him think of his pride and joy, Minato. The boy was so much like him in the looks department, it was hard not to feel that pain in his chest looking at the boy. He remembered being there for Naruto's 3rd birthday, although the kid wouldn't be able to remember him, and on his 9th birthday he had watched from the shadows as he played with his friends. It was nice to see him growing up in a loving environment, and it was a good thing that he had Kakashi to take care of him. He sighed to himself as he urged the toad to the gates of the city. He still had work to do. He had found out what had happened to Itaki and the group he had joined, and that wasn't good at all. If they were gathering up the demon vessels, that meant that Naruto would be put into danger down the line, plus there were rumors that his old friend Orochimaru was on the move again after all this time. He had a lot of work ahead of him, but for a moment he wondered if he should stop by more often. The boy had obviously made genin, as he saw what was on the black headband on his head was an indication. He thought that before he could leave, maybe look to see if he could find Kakashi first and have a talk with the man. Maybe it's time I stop running from the past. He thought to himself the Chunin exams were a ways off, so maybe he'd show up around that time after talking with Kakashi. It might be nice to get to know the kid instead of just watching him, although I will get him back for that arrow Sanin crack. I swear I never get any respect. Later that day. Okay, let's see how that move is now, Naruto asked Konohamaru. It had been an hour since his meeting with that crazy old pervert, and now he was seeing the results of Konohamaru's training under him. The boy nodded and formed the hand seals, sexy jutsu. There was a puff of smoke and there was now a knockout of a brunette with long hair, and Naruto have to admit the illusion was very good. He was glad he knew that wasn't real, or else that would have caused a nosebleed even on him. He smiled under his mask and nodded his approval. Konohamaru reverted back and jumped for joy at this. Alright, now I can use this on Gramps and beat him and prove that I can be Hokage. He shouted out. Well, true, this will beat him, Naruto said to him, but using this wouldn't mean you're Hokage material, kid. What? But if I can beat him, then I'm stronger than him, and the Hokage is supposed to be the strongest ninja. Konohamaru yelled at him. Naruto didn't say anything at first. He just walked right up to Konohamaru, who looked confused up at the boy. Idiot! Naruto yelled out and slammed his fist into the top of Konohamaru's skull, making the boy wince in pain and fall to the ground clutching his head. That's not what being Hokage means, Naruto yelled at him and got into a more serious mode. The position of Hokage is one of strength, but there's more to it. The Hokage protects this village and everyone in it, and that's why I'm going to be Hokage. I need to be stronger than I am now, so one day I can protect and defend my home and the people in it. So, I can protect those precious to me like my friends and family. To be Hokage means more than just being strong, Konohamaru, and you should be Hokage for the right reasons. I want to be acknowledged as well, but I also want to protect this village even if it means my life. I would die to protect my village and family. Can you say the same? Konohamaru looked up at the boy and his words reached him. He looked down at the ground that he was sitting on. He never thought about any of that. All he wanted was to be looked at as more than just the grandson. Remember who my father is too, Naruto said gently to the boy, although what he didn't know was that Naruto was referring to both his fathers. His adopted father Kakashi and his biological father Minato as well. I have a lot to live up to, but you know what? That just means I have to get stronger and go beyond them. I'm going to surpass them. Sure, you can lay out the old man with that move, but would it really be a defeat? It's kind of a cheap way to win. Sure, it's fun to pull for a cheap shot, but I once did that with a boy named Lee, and although I won after it, I didn't feel like I won. Because I know that in skills, he was hell of a lot stronger than me. So you know what I decided? I decided to earn my wins. I don't want to resort to cheap tricks like that, so I train very hard to be as strong as I can be. I can't surpass them if I can't match them in their skills first, and neither can you. Konohamaru looked up at the boy at that point, and Naruto smiled down at him. If you really want to one day be Hokage, you have to train hard, because not only do you have to surprise the old man and protect this village, but you'll have to surpass me one day as well. Konohamaru grinned up at him and stood up. He looked into Naruto's blue eyes and he could see the determination there, and Konohamaru matched his look. Naruto could see the fire beginning to burn in the young boy's eyes, and he saw that his words had reached him. Naruto, Konohamaru said to him, thanks, and you're right. I want to be seen as strong, so I'll train hard, and one day I promise I'll beat you for Hokage. Good, I look forward to it. Naruto laughed and he looked at him as something hit him. First thing is that you're going to have to change your look. Get rid of that skull cap thing, it makes you look like a baby, and the scarf is way too long. Hey, my mom gave me this. He pouted, and Naruto guessed he couldn't make him give that up. So he did the next best thing. He took off the skull cap and wrapped the scarf around the boy's face. Now his lower face was hidden behind the scarf like his was, and he smiled at the boy. Konohamaru smiled back at him. Now you look more like a ninja. He gave the boy a thumbs up. Cool, so what now, more training? Naruto shook his head. Nah, actually I was on my way to meet two friends at the park. He saw the downcast look on the boy's face and decided on something. Hey, you can come too, one of my friends is your age anyway, so it's always great to make new friends. Really? Cool, let's go then, boss. He yelled out. Alright, but don't call me boss, it just feels weird. Naruto said as they started making their way to the park. Can I call you Naruto Naizen then? The boy asked, and Naruto thought about it and nodded. He always wanted a little brother, and Konohamaru was a cool kid anyway. There you are. Ebisu jumped out of the woods that they were traveling in. Honorable grandson, I have been looking for you for hours. Where have you been and what have you been doing and why are you wearing your scarf like that? Man, you ask a lot of questions, Naruto said to him. I was with Naruto learning to be a ninja, Konohamaru said to him, although he did skip the whole training in the sexy jutsu technique since that didn't sound as good as training as a ninja did. Ebisu crossed his arms. Although Naruto is a genin and his father is a top-rank jonin, I so specialize in training ninjas, and if you want to be strong, I can show you how to get there quickly if you just follow my teachings. Naruto scowled at that. Hey, there's no quick way to strength, at least not true strength, that much even I know. Naruto thought back to lessons he had learned from people like Guy, his father, Lee, Anko, and others. They all had to earn their place and no one had given them anything as they had to earn what they had, so to him the easy way was never the good way to get to your goal. Ebisu pushed his shades up higher on his face. Well, be that as it may, I am a special jonin for a reason, Naruto, and I know that Konohamaru can become very strong very fast if he just sticks with my training. Naruto crossed his own arms, not liking the man's attitude. Now he understood why his dad always said that Ebisu is strong ninja but lacked a good personality. He also said something else that reminded him of something that Ebisu tried to keep hidden. He smirked dangerously as his prankster side was getting ideas already. Oh yeah, what if Konohamaru and I beat you in one move? Naruto asked him. That I would like to see very much, young Naruto. He looked to Konohamaru. Alright, I know what I said, but in cases like these they are special cases, so let's show him what I've taught you. He winked and Konohamaru sudden got what he was talking about as he grinned. They both grinned as they made the hand seals and cried out sexy jutsu. Ebisu coughed as there was a large amount of smoke, and when it cleared his brain froze. There standing there were two young looking very sexy women, a brunette and blonde with the cloud just obscuring their private parts. His jaw dropped as this was not something he had been prepared for. What are you looking at, Ebisu-kun? Don't you like us? Naruto said in his sexy girl form, giving him that cute pout look. That was it for the special jonin as he shot off, leaving a trail of blood behind. The kids transformed back and ran off laughing, leaving the man twitching on the ground with a stupid grin on his face. Chapter 26, Parks and Training. Naruto was leading Konohamaru through to the park and they talked on the way there. He got to learn a bit more about Konohamaru on the way there. Apparently, he was an only child and liked a lot of things, although the boy hadn't had ramen yet, so he resolved to fix that mistake as soon as possible. Konohamaru also learned a few things, like that Naruto knew his uncle Asuma well from Naruto's father and the Haytake poker games. The two were having some fun talking when they arrived at the park and Naruto started to look for Hinata. He didn't have to look far as he saw Hinata pushing her little sister on a swing set. The usually reserved little sister was actually smiling. Hanabi usually acted much like a typical Hyuga inside the compound, but when Hinata got her outside to play she could just be a little kid again. He also saw that Hinata wasn't alone this time as Niji was there as well, most likely as the bodyguard for the main house members. Although he looked impassive there with his arms crossed just watching, Naruto could tell that he was enjoying the sight of his cousins playing. Hey Hinata-chan, Hanabi-chan, Niji. Naruto called out to them all and they looked. Niji nodded to him, as Hanabi gave a small wave while Hinata smiled and gave a timid little wave with a blush. They walked up and Naruto smiled at them. Hey guys, I'd like you to meet Konohamaru Sarutobi. Konohamaru, this is Hinata, Hanabi and Niji Hyuga. Hey, nice to meet you guys, Konohamaru smiled behind his scarf. Sarutobi, Niji said thinking about that name, are you related to the Hokage? Konohamaru stiffened a little and his shoulders dropped. He really didn't want them to know about that right off the bat. Now he could already see them being nice to him just because he was the Hokage's grandson. He hated that, like how the parents of other kids made their kids try to be friends with him even if they didn't like him just because they could get close to the Sarutobi family. He found that out pretty fast and put a stop to it by usually acting like a jerk so they would leave him alone. Although there were at least two kids that he knew at school that seemed okay, but only time would tell with them. Naruto saw the downcast look on the boy's face and had a feeling what he was feeling. Yeah, he's the grandson of the old man, but he hates being called honorable grandson and all that crap. Hinata came forward and bent down to face the boy and gave him a kind smile. The kid looked up at the girl and he had to admit she looked really friendly and kind of pretty too. Don't worry, we know what that's like. GG, growing up in the Hyuga clan, Hanabi and myself are the daughters of the leader of our clan, so I know what that is like. Konohamaru smiled at the girl. It wasn't often that he could find someone that seemed to know what it was like. He turned to see that the girl on the swings had jumped off and was walking up to him. She looked kind of like her older sister, only with longer hair. She seemed to be looking at him oddly, and it was making him a little nervous until the girl looked up at Naruto with a glint of humor on her pearl-like eyes. "Are you brainwashing little kids now to be like you, Naruto Naizen?" Hanabi smirked a little. "What? Why do you say that?" Naruto demanded. "He looks a bit like you with his scarf covering his face," she pointed out. "Is there anything wrong with that?" Naruto said. Hanabi looked at Konohamaru and tilted her head a bit. After a moment she shook her head. "No, nothing wrong with it." Konohamaru wasn't sure why, but he felt his cheeks heat up a bit from the girl looking at him like that and saying it. He didn't know why, but she seemed to be more confident than her older sister, that was for sure. Hinata giggled at the sight. I am remembering when Naruto-kun and I met." Naruto thought about it and smiled brightly. "Oh yeah, that was one of the best days ever. I made the first real friend that day." Naruto's eyes dimmed a bit as he looked a bit sad. "Your mother was there that day. I remember you hiding behind her." Hinata had on a sad smile. Although it had been a few years, it still hurt that her mother was no longer living, and she looked to see her younger sister. She barely even got to know their mother since she had been so young. Most of the images she knew were from pictures that Hinata kept safe. She saw Niji look away and knew that he too felt the loss. Her mother had always been kind to the Branch family and to her uncle and cousin as well. Konohamaru noticed the sudden drop in the group, and he had to guess that it had something to do with their mother. He didn't want to ask since it looked like a painful thing. He would save that for later. Instead he decided to break everyone out of this. He grabbed Hanabi's hand since she was closest and started to quickly move to a jungle gym set in a sphere. "Come on, let's go and play. This is a park, and parks are where you're supposed to have fun," the boy said as Hanabi was surprised by the boy and went with him so she didn't trip or be dragged. Now that Hinata saw that, she fell into giggles again, smiling. That was exactly like how Naruto got her to play all those years ago. She cast a look to Naruto and saw him smiling behind his mask at the scene, and she guessed that he was remembering the same moment too. Naruto broke out of his thoughts as he remembered something that he meant to ask Niji the next time he saw him. "Oh Niji, can you do me a favor?" Niji raised an eyebrow since he wasn't sure if this was the normal one of like the time a few years ago while still in the academy. He had run into Niji and asked him to hold something for him and then ran off. It turned out to be a paint can, and that was when one of the teachers caught up, and as it turns out Naruto had tried to make a piece of artwork in the teacher's lounge. That hadn't been a good day for Niji, although he did get Naruto back for that later, as after yet another prank, he was running by Niji so he just tripped the boy. Naruto had been caught and glared at the Hyuga boy but later grinned at him. Apparently, he knew what Niji had done and why and accepted it. Although ever since then he was wary of whenever Naruto said, "Can you do me a favor?" from that point on, like he was at this point in time. "Oh, come on, I just wanted you to ask Lee if he wants a rematch with me sometime," Naruto sighed, seeing the look on the boy's face. Niji nodded his head. "Sure, he has been looking forward to it, but don't you dare use that jutsu you used on him again. Despite that, Guy-sensei would disapprove. You remember what Tenten did, right?" Naruto paled, remembering the angry girl with all the really sharp weapons and had killer aim, literally, on his ass after that. Thankfully she wasn't angry anymore, but he learned that all women, especially kunoichi, were extremely dangerous when angry. "Oh, trust me, I got a new move that will lay him out, and I didn't feel right winning that way. It was a cheap shot and I want to beat him fair and square," Naruto told him. "Good, although he's been training extra hard and was trying to train while blindfolded," Niji told him, and seeing the expressions on both Naruto and Hinata's face he sighed. It was Guy-sensei's idea to overcome the sexy jutsu. He figured if Lee could fight without seeing it, then it wouldn't work. Naruto thought about that and smacked his head. "Oh man, I never thought of that. If someone can fight without seeing it's damn useless. That's pretty smart of them." Hinata and Niji sweat dropped at that statement as they couldn't believe that he actually agreed to that. Meanwhile, Konohamaru and Hanabi were on the playground equipment as they watched the older kids. "Hey, Hanabi is your sister, okay? She stutters a lot and she seems to blush a lot around Naruto Naizen." Hanabi nodded her head. She has a huge crush on him, but he doesn't know and she's too afraid to tell him. "Oh man, how long has that been going on?" She sighed. "For years, as long as I can remember. Now that I think about it, she's always been like that around him." "Really? How long have you known Naruto?" "I only just met him today." Hanabi smiled as she couldn't remember a time she hadn't known him. All my life, he and my sister have been friends since before I was born, and he always comes over and is the only non-Hyuga who can just come and go from out compound. He's like an older brother. A bit goofy and stuff, but he's always been fun. Kano Amaru smiled at that. That's cool. So is it because he's such good friends with your sister that he can just come and go? Hanabi shook her head. Well, not all of it. Before I was born, a cloud ninja tried to kidnap my sister and might have gotten away with it, but Naruto Naizen stumbled onto it and beat the ninja. Kano Amaru looked back quickly to the three older kids looking at Naruto with new respect as he was joking around with the other two. Sure, he was a genin and stuff, but he didn't think he was strong enough to take on a real ninja when he was younger. Naruto must be really strong then. I've got to catch up then. I won't be left behind. He may make it to Hokage before me, but I will take over after him, and I promise to not take the easy way either. So, are him and your sister dating? Kano Amaru asked, seeing how the two were interacting. Well, she really likes him and I know she would love to be his girlfriend, but she's too shy to do anything about it, and as for him, well, he's totally clueless about it. Kano Amaru looked over watching the two again, and he had to admit she seemed like a nice girl. Would you want them to be together? Hanabi nodded at once, not even needing to think about it. Yeah, and if they got married then he really would be my brother. She blushed a bit at that. She never told anyone that and it just kind of slipped out, but it was true. She always thought that Naruto and Hinata would be great together, and having him as her brother-in-law would be great. He would be there all the time, and she knew it would make her sister totally happy in life too. Well, let's help them out then. Kano Amaru smiled broadly at her and she had to smile back. After that they started to play some together as they made plans for getting Hinata and Naruto together, plus Hanabi despite herself was starting to have fun. There were no other kids her own age in the main branch, and the kids in the other branch stayed away from her, so she didn't have any kids her own age to play with. So, meeting another kid her own age that didn't seem to care about her station in life, about her clan or anything. With him she was just another kid, and she was growing to like this as well. She hoped to see more of Kano Amaru. Elsewhere, Kakashi was reading his usual book as he was currently reading volume 2 of his beloved series. Walking through the streets of the village, he somehow avoided all the people, carts and anything else in his way without looking. It was an odd sight to see at times for a man with only one eye, hence no depth perception, reading and still avoid everything and anything in his path. If it wasn't for the fact, he would read out quietly to himself bits and pieces, people wouldn't even think he was reading. He was just getting to a good part where the young lovers had just escaped from a band of enemies and were hiding out in a cave. They were wet from the rain, so they had to let their clothing dry. He let out a perverted giggle as he knew where this was heading, but he didn't dare skip ahead. It took the flavor out of things that way. He was just getting to where the girl was shyly blushing when he felt a large chakra signature overhead. He looked up and was surprised to see Jiraiya there up on a rooftop. So back in town, huh? Kakashi said with an eye smile. Well, I was making a report and was just about to leave. He dropped down to face the man. So how is the boy doing? Kakashi was wondering how long it would take for him to get to the point, but something seemed off to him. He seemed a bit more direct than usual. He decided to see where this was going and continued on as usual with the man. Naruto is doing great. He passed with high marks, and the only one that seemed to give him a run for his money was Sasuke Uchiha. The two have a type of rivalry which seems to help push the other to new levels. I'm actually surprised at how advanced the boys are. The Toad-san nodded his head hearing this. Well, that's good. I know that Minato would be honored that you were teaching his boy. He noticed a bit of a pained look in Kakashi's eye, but it went as quickly as it came. He wasn't sure it was the mention of Minato or a reminder that Kakashi wasn't Naruto's biological father. In any case, he mentally shrugged as he thought of something. You know, I might be back for the Chunin exams, so if the boy is getting pretty far I might teach him a few things, maybe even get him to sign with the Toads. I was actually thinking of giving him the contract with the dogs fairly soon, Kakashi interjected. Jiraiya frowned a bit. I don't bad talk them, they are great summons for trackers, but Naruto will need something a bit more powerful to deal with things that are going to be ahead of him. When the truth gets out about his biological father, you can bet that a certain village would love to get their hands on his legacy. Plus, there is something else. Someone is trying to gather the tailed beasts and the people who carry them within. He said softly to him in a dark voice. Kakashi's eyes widened a bit, then narrowed. Who are they? Still looking into it, but a few years ago it looked like my old teammate Orochimaru was part of them. That's how I stumbled upon the group while I was tracking him. Lost him for a bit, but it seems he quit the group, but I heard something disturbing about a member in their group. Who? Kakashi asked, keeping his voice low. Itachi Uchiha. That name alone was one that was never uttered, but everyone knew the name. Who could forget the man that killed one of Konoha's clans, even the clan that had helped forge the hidden village and only left one survivor? The fact that Itachi was involved worried Kakashi. He was good, but he wasn't sure he could match up to Itachi. Even though people called Kakashi a genius, Itachi took that to whole new levels. I'll have to plan for that and make sure that Naruto is ready, Kakashi muttered to himself. Hold on, don't forget his team, Kakashi, Jiraiya told him quickly. He has a team for a reason, and they will most likely get caught up in this too, so you have to make sure they are all ready. Maybe teach them what you can to survive. Like what, my Chidori or Raise Non? Kakashi asked him. Only if they can handle it, but try to do things small and work from there. Kakashi nodded to himself, already making more and more plans. The groundwork would have to be established first, but after they got the basics down, they would be able to train a lot harder too. Plus, there was something else that he had been preparing Naruto for, but after what Jiraiya said, he would have to modify things a bit. Oh well, it just meant more work, and although he liked to be lazy or appear that way when there was hard work to do, he could do it like none other. Hey Kakashi! Came a somewhat angry yell, and both men turned to look to see a serious-looking Anko coming up to them. Anko, what's up? Kakashi asked, noticing Jiraiya leering at the special Jonin, and he wasn't sure how he felt about that. Anko was a close friend and he was a bit bothered by that. Well, I had an interesting experience at the hot springs today, she said, placing a hand on her hip. She failed to notice that Jiraiya paled a bit and started to sweat a little, trying not to be too noticed at the moment. You see, I just off a nasty little mission, so I thought that having a nice stop at the hot springs would be nice, and it was, until some old pervert and two perverted kids were peeking on the women. I didn't get a good look, but I heard one of the boys was wearing black and orange with a mask. And I was thinking, who do I know that fits that description? Kakashi sighed and hung his head. I have no idea what he was doing there, Anko, but I will find out, and trust me, the boy will be punished for it. Hey there, go easy on the kid, after all it might not have been his fault, Jiraiya spoke up. Anko looked at the man closely, taking a step forward. Wait a minute, the man they described was said to have long white spiky hair too. Jiraiya stiffened and started to look for a quick exit plan. Hot springs. There are hot springs here. When did they get put in? I'm usually off for long periods of time, so I guess that they could have been put in while I was away. Anko's eyes narrowed, not believing that for a second. Unless you've been gone for over 50 years, they have been here for a long time, and everyone in the village knows about them. Oh, yeah. He was starting to feel a little killer intent and looked to Kakashi. Hey, don't suppose you could get your girlfriend to calm down a bit? Girlfriend? Both of them said at that, and they looked at each other for a moment. Anko has been a good friend for years, Kakashi said to him. Yeah, Anko said, fighting off a blush. She really didn't want to seem girly in front of other male ninjas, but for a while now she had been entertaining the thought. Ever since she saw him without that mask, she couldn't help but think about that handsome face behind the mask. Really, I would have thought she was your type too, the old man teased the two younger ninjas. I mean, she's got a great figure, right? Kakashi was about to say something when he realized he wasn't sure what to say. On the one hand, he couldn't deny that she was definitely one of the best-looking kunai in the village, and she was pretty fun to hang out with. He had gone out, when Naruto was old enough, or he got a sitter, with other jonins to drink, and she could hold her own. She was pretty skilled, and with a bit more training she could one day make full jonin as well. He did like her hanging out, and Naruto really liked her as well. But on the other hand, if he admitted that he had looked at her and her body, how would she react to that? Anko noticed his hesitation on commenting and was annoyed by that, but she wasn't sure for what reason, so she gripped open her coat. What, you don't think this is a hot body? And you better be honest, because I work hard to get looking this good. Kakashi swore in his head this wasn't what he needed, although he couldn't help to take a look. She was very trim. She had an athletic build but kept her feminine form. All in all, she had the perfect kunoichi body. He was about to say something when he saw Jiraiya giggling and making notes, so he turned to glare at him. Do you mind? Not at all, keep it up you two, he snickered, but then froze as he felt two killing intents hitting him, and he slowly looked up from his notepad to see both ninja glaring at him. Kakashi cracked a knuckle while Anko took out one of her kunai. The older ninja gulped and gave a small innocent smile before bolting for the nearest gate out of the village, and he soon had a couple of angry ninjas on his tail as well. 1 week later. It had been a week and so far, Team 7 was just finished with a couple of D-ranked missions. They were just finishing up clearing up a lawn while Kakashi was reading one of his books. It had been a fairly simple week so far, some missions with a little training to see where everyone was in their skills. So far Sasuke and Naruto were very skilled, although Sakura was very smart. She was more book smart and he was already trying to think of ways of improving her other skills. She wasn't so bad, at least while she had been friends with Naruto and the others. She had gone over and trained with Ino at times, so she had skills in fighting, but so far, no justice of her own at least yet. He was also thinking of a few surprises for his students. He had been thinking hard on how to teach all three and how to make this a real team. He thought back to his own days as a genin with Naruto's father teaching him with Obito and Rin. He also had been thinking about the whole thing with Anko last week as well. So far, they had been pleasant together, but there was something going on, like something going on under it all. He sighed. He hated this thing were so much simpler, but he couldn't think of that now, at least not yet. He looked up to see everyone finished and snapped his book shut. Alright, looks like we're all done here. Us? We did all the work. All he did was read again, Naruto muttered to the two others, who nodded slightly. Well, come on, before I report in for the team, I think it's time for you all to learn a new ninja skill, Kakashi said as he led them into their training area. When they got there, he could see Naruto excited as usually, although he would have to disappoint him this time. Alright, while I'm reporting in, I also have some things to look into. Naruto, I want you to teach them the tree walking exercise while I'm gone, Kakashi said. Naruto groaned, oh come on Pops, I already know this. I mean, sure, I don't think they know, but I learned this while in the academy. Why can't you teach me something while they're learning this? Naruto, you are in a team, and as such this is a team exercise as well as training, Kakashi. Then I smiled. Besides, they could use your help with this advanced chakra control exercise too, and if you really want, try to do it on water once they got the hang of it. Wait, you can do it on water too? Naruto said, excited. Kakashi nodded, although what he forgot to tell him was that you had to use your chakra differently. Oh well, not trying to get wet was a nice way to motivate him to learn faster. Alright, you can count on me, Naruto said happily. Meanwhile, the other two were wondering just what was going on. Sakura was eager to learn something new, while Sasuke was a little irritated that Naruto seemed to know something that he didn't, and that meant that he would have to train even harder to surpass him in whatever it was that they were going to see. As soon as Kakashi left, Naruto led them over to a few trees. Okay, so what's so special that you of all people are supposed to teach us? Sasuke asked with his arms crossed over his chest. Naruto smiled under his mask. It felt so good that he was going to show up Sasuke. The guy always seemed to know everything in school, and it was great to show him something for a change. Basically, we're going to climb the trees but using only our feet. What, you can't do that, can you? Sakura asked him wide-eyed, although Sasuke gave a small grunt that he wasn't sure he believed it either. Sure, you can, Sakura-chan. All you got to do is use chakra in your feet to stick on it like this. Naruto make a hand seal and concentrated. His control was still not that great, but it was miles ahead where it originally had been, thanks to his dad making him do this exercise among others all the time. He concentrated and started to walk up the tree. He went all the way up to a very high branch and then jumped onto it. See, nothing to it, he shouted out to them. Sasuke grunted and made the same seal and went to do the exact same thing, only he only made it up one step before falling onto his back, and he looked up annoyed at a laughing Naruto. I guess I forgot to mention that you need a set amount too much and you won't stick in too much and you can launch yourself right off the tree, Naruto laughed. And I bet you know that firsthand too, Sasuke shouted up at him as Naruto stopped laughing and sweat dropped, scratching the back of his head. It was only a few times, he muttered to himself, although in truth it had been a lot of times before he got the hang of it. So how are you doing, Sakura-chan? Where did she go? Naruto looked at the bottom, but he didn't see her anywhere. Right here, Naruto, Sakura's voice said next to him, making the boy jump and nearly fall off the branch. He caught himself and saw Sakura there sitting on the branch, giggling at how he looked, clinging to the trunk of the tree. How did you get up here? He asked, shocked that she was up here. I did what you did, it's not very hard, she told him. But it took me days to do this and you do it in one turn. I can't believe you're so good at this. Your chakra control had got to be amazing, he said to her. Sakura blushed at his compliment. She knew that the boys were better in a lot of things, so finally finding something that she surpassed them both in felt really good to her. Already her inner self was already doing cheers in her favor as well. Sasuke meanwhile was a little angry, although he wasn't sure if it was against himself or not. He only picked himself up and decided to train even harder. There was no way he would be left behind. He had a long way to go to reach his goal of avenging his family and clan, and he would be the best there was in order to face him. The three trained a lot that day. Naruto had Sakura run up and down the tree, saying it was a good way to gain more chakra in your system, and if Sasuke asked her for any advice, as he was still trying. Although Naruto had to admit the other boy was doing better than he had when he started this. He went to a small pond in the area and tried water walking and ended up getting entirely wet for the entire time, and only got to the point where he was standing on the water, but his feet would keep sinking up to his ankles and any movement caused him to lose focus and fall in again. By the end of the day Sasuke had got halfway up the tree. Sakura was dead tired and could barely move, and Naruto looked like he spent the day in a rainstorm. It was a very amusing sight when Kakashi returned at the end of the day to tell them training was over for the day, but so far he could already see some improvements in his young team, and he could wait until tomorrow when they started with weights on for their physical training. That's it for this reading. Hit like and subscribe for a free ticket pass going to the different worlds of anime fanfictions. Looking forward to having you on board again.